Okay, good afternoon. We're up to the fifth paragraph of the first chapter of Ethics of the Fathers. And it's a continuation of the preceding three Mishnahs. If you remember, Shimon Hatzadik said the world stands on three things: Torah, the study of Torah; avoda, service, prayer; gemilas chasadim, acts of loving kindness. The next three paragraphs, the next three Mishnahs, take each one of those three pillars and goes a little deeper into them. For example, service, serving God. Antignos tells us that you should never serve God with the intention of getting a reward, but you should serve Him without the intention. So he's telling us something about service. What makes service complete? When you do it for the most pure of motives. That's his message concerning avoda, the service of God. The next Mishnah was taught by Yossi ben Yoezer. Remember, there were two sages that were the followers and disciples of Antignos and Shimon Hatzadik, Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan. Yossi ben Yoezer focuses on the pillar of Torah, and he says, your house shall be a meeting place for the sages. You shall sit at the dust of their feet and drink their words with thirst. So he's focusing on Torah. The Torah should not just be a casual thing, but you should make Torah an integral part of your life. The sages shall be frequent visitors to your house. Your home should be a home of Torah. Now, Yossi ben Yochanan is focusing on the third pillar, kindness, acts of kindness. And he gives us a model of kindness. There are many different manifestations of kindness. Giving charity to a poor person is kindness. Lending money to someone who's in need is kindness. Visiting someone who's not well is kindness.
Lending money, that would be without interest.
Without interest, right. Providing food for the Jewish Discovery Center is an act of kindness. There are many, many forms of kindness, but he picks on the one called Hachnasat Orchim, hospitality. That seems to be his focus. And there seems to be something unique about hospitality. Why didn't he pick on charity? Why didn't he pick on some other form of kindness? There were so many forms of kindness. Because in a certain sense, helping guests, and by guests I don't just mean inviting your neighbor or your best friend or your nephew to your home, which is nice to do, but it's taking in someone who doesn't have a place to go, either because they're homeless, literally homeless, or because they're temporarily homeless. They're visiting in a community and they don't have a home base to go to. In a certain sense, that's a much more powerful form of kindness than any of the other forms. Each form has its own distinction. We're not trying to put down one or the other, just that he focused on Hachnasas Archim. Why? There's a statement in the Talmud that says that having guests in your home is more important than welcoming God. If God comes to visit you, as he did with Abraham, and then there is a potential, there are guests that are coming, what does Abraham say to God? He says, God, wait for me. I'll take care of you later. Right now I have some guests. There were 3 people who are coming along, and I'm going to invite them into my tent and feed them. So the Talmud says, from this we can see that to welcome guests, it's superior, it's greater than welcoming the divine presence. It's a very powerful statement. And later on, I'll go into a deeper understanding. I just wanted to illustrate that, how important they consider bringing someone into your home. Yes?
I understand that if it comes between studying Torah and you have to do a gesture like a charity, you can put the Torah aside and you do it
Generally speaking, whenever a mitzvah conflicts with the study of Torah, if someone else can do it,
right,
then you keep on studying Torah. But if no one else is available, you have an obligation to interrupt. Right.
Rabbi,
Yes.
when you sponsor a kiddush or a lunch at a shul, is it equivalent to bringing people into your home?
It depends. If the people that come to the Kiddush don't have a place to go, they're homeless, or they just are visiting in town and no one invited them, they don't have a place to go, then it would be equivalent. Although there'd still be an edge to bringing them into your own personal home. And we'll get in more into that as we go on. So this Yossi ben Yochanan, he was a man of Jerusalem. Why is it important for us to know that he was from Jerusalem? So one commentary I saw says, Jerusalem was the greatest model of hospitality in all of human history. Jerusalem, in those days, was not a large city the way it is today. It was much smaller. And yet every Jew would come there Passover 3 times a year, but especially on Passover, to bring the Paschal offering. Josephus talks about how they sacrificed over about 250,000 lambs for the Passover sacrifice, and one lamb feeds many people. So you're talking about at least 1 million people were there. Where did they stay? They stayed in Jerusalem. But where did they stay in Jerusalem? The people invited them. People invited these visitors to Jerusalem. And that later on in Ethics of the Fathers, one of the 10 miracles that is listed that happened was no one ever said, there's no room for me to lodge in Jerusalem. They always had room for people in Jerusalem. A contemporary model of that would be Crown Heights during Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, during the month of Tishrei. You have thousands and thousands of visitors, and somehow they house them all. Everyone has a place to stay with food, and everything you can want is available to the visitors. And no one ever says, I have no place to stay. At least I didn't hear anyone complaining. But in Jerusalem, it says clearly, no one ever complained. That's the miracle, that Jews didn't complain. Maybe it was crowded, but apparently Jerusalem was the model of hospitality. And that's perhaps why Yossi ben Yochanan, as a man of Jerusalem, was very, very sensitive to this virtue of hospitality. And what does he say? Let your house be wide open. What does he mean by wide open? He doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't lock the doors in your house at night. What he means, it should be open to as many people as you can possibly get into your home. You should be very hospitable. Where is the model for this? So most people would tell you Abraham. The patriarch Abraham had a tent, and our sages tell us it was open on all 4 sides. Actually, the Midrash says that Job also had the same thing. Job had, wherever he lived, his home, his tent, had 4 entrances, so people should not have to make the extra effort of going around to find the entrance. That's what he means. Keep your home open. It should make your home easily accessible. Not necessarily only physically accessible, but emotionally, psychologically accessible. People should feel comfortable coming into your home. Your home should not be a fortress, a castle. It should be a place where you welcome outsiders into your home. There's another meaning of the word that we translate here as wide open. L'revacha could also mean profitable. You should keep your home in a way that it becomes profitable. What does that mean? When your home is open, and you're hospitable, it creates an atmosphere in the home that the children will pick up, and they will become hospitable people. You will enhance the atmosphere of the home. You will make the home a much more wholesome place. It rubs off. It's a tremendous feeling that develops in the home when children see how open it is. When you do good things outside the home, the children don't see it. They don't know what their parents are doing when their parents go to work. The parents can be doing great things. When you bring it into the home, it changes the atmosphere of the home. In the preceding Mishnah, the other Yossi said the sages should make your home a place of meeting for the sages. That also changes the atmosphere of the home. And if we don't have sages in your home, you have Jewish books, sage books, Torah books that enhance the atmosphere of the home. But it's not enough just to have a spiritual atmosphere. You want to have an atmosphere of kindness. Your home should be a home of kindness. The Rebbe once encouraged everyone to have a tzedakah, pushka, a charity box attached to your walls of your kitchen. What's the purpose of that? That the kitchen is where you prepare all the food for the home. That's the center of the home. You should know that your home is an extension of charity. Just like the mezuzah. When you put a mezuzah on the doorpost, what does that mean? That means that the house is an extension of your mezuzah. The mezuzah is what your house is. It's the recognition that there is one God. That's what the mezuzah is. And the rest of the house is an extension of that mezuzah. But it's not enough. You also have to have an extension of the pushka, of the charity box. That you should know that, and every day, before you cook, you put a few coins in the charity box. It's not the amount that you give, but you should remember that while you're preparing things for yourself, you're thinking of others. That's another form of hospitality, is when you can't literally get someone in your home and feed them, you put a few coins in the charity box, recognizing that there are other people who have needs, and you're thinking about them before you think about your own needs. So there's a great profit involved in this when you open your home to others. Now, there's an expression in the Talmud, kabdehu v'chashdehu. Kabdehu means honor them and suspect them. What does that mean? It means sometimes if you keep your house open for everyone, you might get a criminal in your home. I could attest to that. I had several. What? So you have to be cautious. Yes, treat them as an honored guest, treat them with kindness, but doesn't mean you should let down your guard. Unfortunately, we're living in an age where there's so much danger that lurks, so we have to be careful. But it shouldn't be at the expense of showing hospitality. And tragically, just a few days ago in Crown Heights, there's a home there run by a chassid, and it's open for months of the year, where that's anyone into sleep, feeds them. It's probably $1 million budget. And one of the homeless people who was sleeping there and eating there and everything stabbed a chassid and put him in critical condition, stabbed him in the neck. Thank God he's all right. He was able to. They were able to save him, and they're still looking for this guy. So you have to be careful. So the rabbis were not mindless of the prospects of being harmed by an unknown guest, an unknown visitor. So you have to be careful. But you have to remember, it says first honor them, then suspect them. That your first thought has to be, here's a person I could help, I could feed, I can bring him in my home. And then you say, but I have to be careful. Especially if you have children, you have to be careful. We have all sorts of characters who can do harm to children. And nowadays we're living in an age where you have to be very careful.
Forgive me, may I just ask, tuach I know, but lirvacha, I don't know that word.
What? Lirvacha.
Tuach lirvacha.
Opened widely.
Okay.
Ravacha, and that's why ravacha also means profitable.
Yes. Okay.
Because when you're money is wide and expands, it's profitable.
Yeah.
So it's the same, it's based on the same idea. Now, the other Yossi, going back to the other Yossi, said home should be a place, a meeting of the sages. This Yossi says, no, that's not enough. You shouldn't only have distinguished people in your home. There are some people who will have guests in their home if they're special people, distinguished, honorable, rich, people who you're very close to, Torah scholars. This Yossi says, no, just keep your house open for everyone. It should not be only people who brings honor to you. Sometimes you'll want to have a guest. You'll want to have a dignitary coming to your home because it looks good. Look who came to visit me. The president came to visit me. The vice president came. The movie star, the athlete, the what? The rabbi. Someone who it looks good for you. You don't care about the guest. You care about your own honor. Yes.
So it's he was Orthodox communist because communist, everybody equal, everybody come, everything free. It's communism.
When you invite a guest into your home, no, communism is communism, it's the very opposite of communism. Communism is where the government does everything for you and you don't have to be kind. Judaism is where you have to do it, not the government.
No. In real communism, what
real communism, if
it's no government, no everybody equal, no like anarchism, only
no. If there's someone, a poor person, and doesn't have where to go, and you can invite him into your house, that's not communism. That's kindness. Communism is where you take away things from people in the name of helping others. That's communism. But anyhow, this Yossi is saying, don't be judgmental about the person who you bring in your home. Of course, you have to be judgmental to make sure they're not a threat to you, but if they're not going to bring you honor, that shouldn't deter you from bringing them to your home. There's a story told of the two brothers, the Hasidic masters, Elimelech and Zusha. They used to travel around incognito. They would travel like paupers, like people who had nothing to, and then people would have to help them and give them food. And they came to a certain town, and they went to one of the leaders of the Jewish community. They asked him if they could stay with him. And he said, he looked at them, they were dressed in rags and they didn't look like distinguished people. He said, no, this is not for, my house is not for people like you. A few years later, these two brothers became famous as the greatest Hasidic rabbis in the world. They became world famous. So when they visited the town, this Jewish leader invited them to stay with him. So they sent him their horse and carriage, and they stayed with someone else, with a poor person. So the guy says, what is the meaning of this? He says, we're the same people we were a few years ago. We didn't change. What changed is then we came by foot. Now we came with horse and carriage. So you like the horse and carriage, so I sent the horse and carriage to stay with you, and I'll stay with the person who let me in 2 years ago when he saw me the way I was. You shouldn't just invite someone because they add to your honor and glory. Now it says over here, let the poor be members of your household. What does he mean by this? So the simple meaning is that, as I just said before, you shouldn't discriminate. Don't just take someone who's rich, or someone who's famous, someone who has some special status. Even people who are poor. And poor doesn't necessarily mean financially poor only. It can mean poor in other respects. They'll charge more, bring them in. They'll charge more, bring them into your home. Let your home be a place where the people who work in your home are poor people. If you could find someone who's the other, give the better to your gather. Give the better to your guest, and keep the inferior thing for yourself. Actually, the Talmud says, Actually, my father-in-law was like that. Leah, what did he do when guests came to the house? He gave away his bed. And where did he sleep?
First on chairs, and then when we finally got the couch, we sleep on the couch.
Okay, he wanted to really enjoy himself on a couch, so. Now, this is a very high standard, and that's what Ethics of the Fathers is not talking to average people, it's talking to people who are above average and are willing to, because they feel that the other person is more important than their own needs, and they train their children to feel good about it. The children, in many homes that focus on hospitality, the kids are the most excited when the guests come into the home and they can give away their beds to the guests.
Excuse me. In this case, when some people say, take from rich people and give to poor people.
No, you don't steal.
No.
That's stealing. No,
Law and give to poor people everything what you have.
No, you know,
Everybody will be
no, you're not allowed to give everything you have to the.
hospitality.
No, you don't give everything you own to the poor. The Talmud says you're not allowed to give. Generally, there are some exceptions, more than 20% of your money to charity. You should give minimum 10%, maximum 20%. Why? So Maimonides explains, because if you're going to give everything away, you'll become poor and they're going to have to give it back to you. It's going to be like, I'm going to give you everything that you have to give it back to me, because I'm now poor, and I'll give it back to you and we'll play a game. Yeah.
I think I have a great example of what you're talking about. My closest friends in Beit Shemesh, Israel. Ellie and Judy have 7 children. There was never less than 16 people at their Shabbos table. Never. They invited everybody, and it's like I was, thank God, adopted by this family, and I was there every Shabbos. We had a wonderful meal that every child in the house had a job preparing something for that meal. And so they were all involved in giving to everybody
Right.
at the table. Now, when Joshua was getting married, I gave Josh a set for 12 people of dishes for his wedding present. He loved them. He knew I got them at a great price. He rushed out to get a set of another 12 because he wanted his table to be like his parents' table.
Okay. That's the best way of educating children, by example. Another point, it says the poor should be members of your household, which means they should feel that it's their house as well. That's the ideal. That when a guest comes to your house, they don't feel I'm a guest and I'm really burdening the host, and I should. You should, when there's an expression that people use, an empty expression in most cases, feel at home. And then they go into the refrigerator, they take things out, and they they go to the freezer and they take out a few steaks and they start. I didn't really mean that. No, don't take me seriously. No, here it says you should take it seriously. That they should really feel that it's their home. I think I once told the story. There was a chassid who wanted his father, who was not a chassid, to come to his Rebbe. And he refused. He didn't want to come. He wasn't interested. He says, I'm happy the way I am. I don't need a Rebbe. One time he convinced him. He came for Shabbos, and the Rebbe was very inspiring and everything. And Shabbos was over. He said, well, did I convince you to become a chassid? And he says, no, it's not my cup of tea. He said, but before you go home, could you come with me to the house of another chassid here? They're having a meal Saturday night. And he comes to the home, and he doesn't know anyone there, so he figures the guy sitting at the head of the table, he must be the host. But then they see someone is running everything. He says, oh, he must be the host. And then they saw another person doing something, and he said, oh, he must be the host. He couldn't figure out who the host was. And the truth was, they were all hosts. The one who owned the house did not appear to be more in charge than anyone else. Everyone felt it was their home. That's what he means. The poor should be your household members. They should feel it's their home. Now we come to the very interesting part. But before I get to that, just one other point. Let the poor be members of your household. Poor in Hebrew does not only mean poor, it also means humble. Because usually poor people are humbled people. So it doesn't only mean financially poor, it means be humble. That you should be humble in your house when you bring in guests, which means the guest can only feel comfortable if they feel that the host is humble. If the host acts like he's a big shot, it's my home and I'm the gracious host, the guests will feel uncomfortable. They have to sense that the host is humble and very, very much feels that he is not superior to them. Now we come to a part that's very often misunderstood. Engage not in too much conversation with women. They said this with regard to one's own wife. How much more so with regard to another man's wife? What exactly is going on over here? So the simple understanding of this is a caveat. One of the serious issues in life is immorality, temptation for immorality. If you're going to be having this open door policy to bring everyone into your home, that includes women, obviously, and that could lead to negative things. Don't get into these lengthy discussions with women. It doesn't mean you can't talk to women. It means don't overdo it, because this could lead to flirting, and flirting can lead to other things, which is not just a possibility, it's an inevitability in our society today, more than ever, maybe not more than ever before. I can't speak for the way things were hundreds of years ago, but it's certainly a very, very dangerous thing today. Just because you have people coming into your home doesn't mean you have to let your guard down with regard to morality. So don't engage in too much conversation with women. But actually, if you read the Hebrew, it's not a correct translation. In Hebrew, it says, V'al tarba sicha, don't speak a lot, im ha'isha. If it would say don't speak a lot with women, it would say im isha or im nashim. Ha-isha means with the woman. What do you mean with the woman? Who's the woman? So one explanation is, when you speak to someone, you speak to them because they're a human being, because they're smart, because they're interesting, because you need them for whatever reason. They need you. Whatever it is, there's a utilitarian function of friendship or whatever else. But if you speak to the person because they are a woman, you're choosing, in other words, you have guests at your table and you're only talking to the woman. Why are you only talking to the woman? Because it's not because you respect her, it's because she's a woman. It's not because she's smart, but because she's attractive. And this is the beginning of going downhill, morally speaking. So it's saying the opposite of what it sounds like. It sounds like it's saying don't talk too much with women because the women are inferior to men. No, it's saying the opposite. Don't talk to them because they're a woman. Talk to them because they're a human being, because they have a mind and they're independent beings. They're not just subordinate to men. They're truly free and independent. Yes, you have a question.
Yes, exactly. One of first advice when I came to America. One my friend, excellent violinist, he came to America with very good English, and he bring his kids to school, and head of school invite him to teach music in this school, in the second week. So once he came to faculty room, he is very, very, gentleman, and it was 35 years ago, and when he, in faculty room, many people in room, and when he finished talk to one lady, he kissed her hand. Okay. After that, she came to head of school and says this is sexual harassment. Head of school explained to her what this is. He came from Europe and this is different culture, it's nothing, and you have to punish him. I will not punish him. She came to superintendent and explained what this boss, head of school, and this man harassed her because she is woman. He saw, no, I came to court.
How much longer is this story?
No, I will finish. And clerk in court said to her, okay, I will take your case. But judge will think you are harassed. This gentleman, head of school and superintendent. So you can lost your case, but they can sue you. It will cost you few $100,000. So think about this. They can go against you. So when I came to America, my friend talked to me, told me, Max, never kiss hand American woman. If you have chance, don't talk to American woman. Don't talk. It's exactly what you say.
Good advice, good advice.
You know, in fact, one of the things that always troubled me, and when I would watch the president coming into the Congress to give his State of the Union, I saw this with a few presidents. He would shake hands with all the men and kiss the women. Mm-hmm. That is sexual harassment. Why is he kissing the women? Why is he not shaking the hands of the woman? Because it's a woman, and a woman you treat differently. That's sexual harassment, and that's wrong. And it shows on the low level of morality that it's not even questioned. People just accept it.
But in morality, men cannot give hand.
In Jewish law, men in Jewish law.
Can.
No. In Jewish law.
I talk about Jewish. I talk about in general. If lady want to shake hand, she do this first, not man.
I'm not familiar with that, but at any rate, in Jewish law, men and women don't have physical contact unless it's a spouse or a close relative. No physical contact. We're not allowed to be in a room alone with another woman, except for a spouse and someone else, someone's close, a mother, a sister, a daughter, and so on. If society would behave that way, you would have much less crime and immorality in this country. But that's not the way the country is. But here the Mishnah is saying, don't overindulge in speaking with a woman because she's a woman. But also there's another point. The Hebrew, it doesn't say don't speak to a woman. It doesn't say that. You see, the Hebrew has more nuances than the English. The English puts it, engage not in too much conversation with women. Well, what does the word conversation mean? It means talking. The Hebrew word is sicha. Sicha does not mean conversation only, it means idle talk. Idle talk. Not serious talk. Just idle talk because you want to engage with a woman. So you're not going to talk about anything serious because you're not interested in her mind and you're not interested in her thoughts. You're interested in her body. You're interested in having a relationship. You're interested in flirting, which is the way society behaves today. And here he's saying, don't do that. And why does he have to say it over here? What's the connection to the earlier thing? Is he's telling us to bring as many people in your home as you can. Well, if you do that, you're going to have women as well. But be careful. Don't allow this to be a license to treat women because, well, she's my guest. I can do whatever I want. One other point. In general, when it's even about one's wife. In other words, engage in too much conversation. The commentaries cite an example with Korach. Korach was Moses' cousin who started a rebellion against Moses. How did that rebellion start? What provoked the rebellion? And the answer is, he came home after a ceremony. He was a Levite. The Levites had to be shaved. Their entire body had to be shaved. And he was disgruntled. But he didn't complain about it. When he came home, he told his wife about it. And she got him agitated. And that caused the whole rebellion. It was a major, major tragedy. Don't bring home all your gripes that you have with other people, because your wife, the same thing would be true if it was the woman who has that and bringing it home to the husband. It just so happens that in those days men were the ones who went out and the women stayed at home mostly. Don't bring negative things home, because they could spiral into something worse than what it would be if you would keep it away from the home. Don't bring negativity into the home. Try to hide negative experiences. You had a bad day at the office, don't bring it back home. You had a bad day in your business, don't bring it back home, because it can only cause more negativity and corrupt and just harm the atmosphere in the home. I said before that the Talmud says that welcoming guests in your home is greater than welcoming God. Because Abraham, who was visited by God, says to God when he sees three people, they were angels disguised as people, God, wait, I'm going to take care of these guests. So the question is, why is it greater than welcoming God? How could there be anything greater? God's coming to visit you, and you tell God, I have something more important than visiting with you. I'm going to take care of the guests. Now, the simple explanation is that's what God wants. God wants doesn't say you have to be welcoming God. God wants you to do a mitzvah, and the mitzvah at this point is to welcome the guests. But there's a deeper explanation my father, of blessed memory, once gave, that when a person is homeless, the Talmud says that the person lacks the dignity of being a full-fledged human being. A human being has to have a home. Why is that? Because a human being is not fully human when they're in public. In public, we put on a show. We're acting. We're on a stage. And it doesn't mean we're faking. It just means that's our public persona. But that's not who we really are. When can we really be who we really are? That's in our home. In our home, we feel this is who we are. I don't have to act. I don't have to put on special clothing. I could be casual. I could act differently. When a person doesn't have a home, that's what hospitality is, giving someone a home. You're actually restoring their humanity to them. If someone is hungry and you feed them, you're giving them food, you're giving them energy, but not humanity. But if someone doesn't have a roof over their head, and that's why the worst scourge that we're experiencing in America is homelessness. And the country is not doing anything about it, about letting people, and now it's becoming a philosophy. It's a good thing. Don't take them away. That's the way they want to live. To try to justify homelessness, there's no justification. It's the most degrading thing that a human being could ever endure, to the point where they don't even feel degraded anymore. When a person doesn't feel degraded anymore, that means the person has reached the bottom, the rock bottom. As long as you still feel that you're missing something, then there's some hope for you. But if you feel this is my slot and I don't have to complain about it, this is the way I want to be, you're really in trouble. So when you bring someone into the home that lacks that human dignity, you're creating their humanity. So you're a partner with God. Welcoming God means that God is above you and you're welcoming Him. But when you feed, when you are hospitable, you are actually a partner with God in creating a human being. And that's why it's even greater than welcoming the divine presence. Any questions? I don't want to end up with the last word of this Mishnah. In the end, he will inherit Gan Eden, paradise. That's the inverse of this. If you do the wrong thing, you end up in a negative place. But if you do the right thing, you end up in the good place, and you experience Gan Eden, paradise, here on earth. When the rabbis speak about paradise, the Talmud says there are some people who can experience it in their lifetime. They don't have to wait till their soul leaves their body to go to paradise, to go to Gan Eden. They can have it over here. When a person is able to follow this teaching of bringing wholesomeness to one's home by inviting guests into the home and not letting it be abused, leading to immorality, they actually bring the future into the present. Everyone is invited to come to my house now. That's actually, even women, yes. Just I can't talk too much. But it depends what you talk to them about. If you're talking to them not idle chatter and nonsense because you want to engage them because they're a woman, then there's no restriction.
Well, I mean, the problem with America is that in order to understand why things must be restricted, America's pushed the envelope that there are no restrictions ever. And then, because of that, you begin to see why there are restrictions.
Yeah, our society became, it went downhill, let's put it that way. Now we have to go uphill.